I asked a really simple question, which was, am I happy? Would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now?
Whoa, 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 it wasn't no unbreakable.
What if I told you that the world is shifting, that the idea of conscious business, conscious entrepreneurship is actually drifting not just in the business space, but also moving into daily life, changing habits, changing the way that we value things like money and even purpose. I brought on someone who needs no introduction if you've been in the internet marketing space. Yanik Silver has been at the forefront of innovation since pretty much the beginning. I remember buying many of Yanik's programs early on in information space, learning exactly how to meander and navigate this crazy internet digital world. And now we're together talking on the Unbreakable podcast. So Yanik, welcome to Unbreakable.
Yeah, thanks, George. I appreciate it.
For those who don't know your background, your backstory, I'd like to maybe just spend a couple minutes so they understand like how'd you get into the internet business? How did you pivot over into becoming kind of like the guru? I would even say the guru to the gurus in some cases, because everyone has pretty much at some point in time learned from some of the things you're doing, and you've really opened up the envelope for people to expand far past business into other areas of things, which we're going to get a lot more detail into.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, I feel like I have to go back to actually my family coming over from Russia. So I came over when I was 3 years old, 1976, and my dad came over, not much use of the English language, and he ended up within about 6 months starting his own business. So I grew up in a family business, an entrepreneurial venture. It was medical equipment sales and service. And at 14, I was telemarketing. At 16, the only way I got a car was I had to go out and go cold call and cold call doctors. So I'm this little 16-year-old punk calling on, 50-year-old doctors. It's kind of funny. So I'm 52 now. I'm like, yeah, that seems really, I don't know how I would get any kind of attention, but I kind of fumbled my way through it, and I sold an entire surgery center to this one doctor, and he became a friend of mine, and he gave me a J. Abraham tape, and it kind of like turned the lights on for me about like, oh, you don't have to be cold calling. You can be, writing advertisements or writing letters or anything like that, and getting doctors to raise their hand, and be like, yeah, I'm interested. And it just changed. It just, complete paradigm shift in my world about that aspect. So I just went from um, this idea. So Earl Nightingale is another person I would listen to. I just turned my car into like a university on wheels, which is I think Brian Tracy's idea. So I would listen to all these motivational tapes, these self-development tapes, and there are tapes. They're not, not even CDs at the time. There are tapes, and so the idea from Earl Nightingale was that if you study for 1 hour a day for 3 years, you become an expert. If you study for 1 hour a day for 5 years, you become a world-class expert. I'm like, oh, well, what happens if you study, for 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day? And so I was just fascinated by this idea of the psychology of getting someone to say yes, or give me money in some way, without having to talk to them, because I was, motivated by this, by it wasn't a fear, but it was like it was a pain for sure. It was a very painful process as a 16, 17-year-old kid to go cold call doctors. And then so I got really good at it, and helped build my dad's business from a regional player to a national player. And he'd look at these ads and he's like, nobody's gonna read all this. I'm like, I call my dad Joe. I'm like, come on, Joe, let's just try it. And he's like, okay, we try. And then we'd get like 1,000% return on investment on an ad for like fetal Dopplers or for EKG machines or whatever the case was. So really just expanded what they were able to do. And for a long time, I thought I was going to take over the family business. And then I'm like, well, I don't think I want to do that. And having a really difficult conversation with my dad about that. And the internet was just starting to sort of come online, and this was like 99. And though some of my friends had already been doing things, not my friends at the time, but now were already doing things like in 94. And so in 99, I'm like, all right, I think there's something here. And I literally woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this idea called instant sales letters. And they're little fill in the blank sales letter templates. I don't know, George, if you had a set of
I
that.
bought that one.
Yeah. So that was my first $1 million product. So after a couple months, I was on track to do six figures. And by the way, I have no technical expertise, so I still don't. But I just went to bed one night with a great question, which is how do I create a fully automatic website? It makes me money while I sleep, is incredible value for people, And literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, that was what I woke up with, was instant sales letters. So I took all the stuff I used for my dad's business. I'd done a little bit of client work as well for other doctors, for a delicatessen, for like an auto repair shop, a couple other like different businesses. And I'm like, all right, well, how do we make them generic, fill in the blank? And people loved them. And then so within a couple months, I was on track to do like 6 figures, and then people were like, "Hey, how did you do this? Could you help me?" And so then that turned into me helping people like with their own expertise or knowledge sell that online, and that turned into a whole nother career. And then at that point, I had seen a bunch of people, like almost the exact same people, speaking on stages, doing the exact same things. And I'm like, all right, I think I want to do an event in the internet marketing space. But for me, I love different. Like it, like, and that's also a big like hook, is like I want to go a different direction. And I think that even stems back to Earl Nightingale, because I think he would say, if you don't even know where to go, 95% of people, don't follow them. Follow, go a complete opposite direction. And so I created the Underground, and it ran for 10 years. And you got your shirt on right there. And yeah, the Underground was this idea of like, let's bring in unknown people who are doing really, really well online, and who are not professional speakers at all, who are probably most cases kind of terrified to speak, and have them share what they're doing. And it was incredible, and it was real. And then it was also a unique experience. So that was incredibly well received. And that was probably the biggest, at least the highest caliber audience for a long time in that space. And then about, I think it's been like maybe 18 or 19 years ago, I asked a really simple question, which was, am I happy? Would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And when I got really honest in my journal, I was making a lot of money. I was driving the Aston Martin. I had a good reputation, really great reputation in the space, wonderful family, all the things looking outside in, you'd be like, all right, this guy's got it really figured out. And then when I was really honest in my journal, the answer was no. Like, so it was like, all right, well, then what does that look like? And then that's where Maverick really stemmed from. It was this idea of like this intersection of originally it was make more, have more fun, give more back. And now it's evolved into growth, impact, and fun. So like a tree to represent growth, and impact as a heart, and then a happy face as have more fun. And so that was really the impetus for what I was doing. And we can get more into it, because it's been the most evolutionary journey, and also the most, sideways, sometimes painful journey.
Yeah, for those who don't know what Mavericks is, maybe you can explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so it started just me wanting to scratch my own itch. I wanted to hang out with my friends who were amazing entrepreneurs, and go off and do amazing wild adventures, combine it with business, combine it with charity, and have some fun there together. So originally it'd be like Baja Dune buggy racing, and I don't know, flying MiG jets, or um, all sorts of things, but with amazing, remarkable entrepreneurs. Plus, there be a charity component or an impact component. We might mentor young entrepreneurs, or we do something with a unique charity and help put our brain power to work for there. So the essence has always remained the same. And then like that first trip, we did a Baja Dune buggy trip. So I'm a big believer in like, you put the stake in the ground, and then you figure it out. And I've done that a lot with some of the products and other things I've done. And this is a completely different kind of business, because this is not publishing with, very high margins. It was, let's put on experiences. And so I put up a lot of money for deposits to go do this very first dune buggy racing trip, and sold it out. It was great. I mispriced it, I guess, because I lost about $40,000. And so I'm like, oh, whatever, it's fine. It's an investment. And then after about $400,000, my wife's like, what are you doing? Well, like, what the hell's like, what's happening here? I'm like, I don't know, but it would be really easy to then go back to sort of like these golden handcuffs, and go back to the internet or digital marketing world, and just keep doing what you're doing. But that's where it really would feel like your soul is dying a little bit every day. And so I asked, and this is really, so as a kid, I was a very weird kid. Like at 12, 13, I was like reading all about sacred sites and ancient cultures and UFOs and parapsychology. I was just really into all this stuff, and I thought it was fascinating. And then I put it all away, got into the entrepreneurial world. And then in this case, where things like my old roadmap and game plan, like, it wasn't working anymore. I had cut off a bunch of stuff because it didn't feel like it was in full alignment. I shut off the underground seminar. I shut off a mastermind connected to it. I shut off a bunch of other things, because I wanted everyone to funnel into Maverick, into what I was doing, and also just really keep my focus just on that. And it was really difficult, honestly. It was because At one point, I sold my Aston Martin to go pay for things. Not that, boo-hoo, but it's just a thing. And but it was a really trying time where it was just a deep, dark place because everything I was doing was not working anymore. And it used to be like I could just come up with something and immediately it would work. And this time, like if it wasn't in full alignment, it wasn't working. And so things were kind of like falling apart around me. And it was really, really interesting to see. And I could have easily, like, let's just take the example of the car, right? Like I could have gone out and leased a Mercedes or BMW or whatever. Like, objectively we're doing fine. We had a decent amount of money in savings, but it wasn't that. It was like, all right, what is happening here? And so I could have, for appearance sake done that, but I'm like, no, let's see what happens. We had this little beat up MDX that was our third car. And so I would drive it around and be like annoyed that I was driving around this MDX. And then at some point, like it started shifting into like gratitude for it because I could stick my paddle boards in there. And I couldn't do that in my Aston Martin, obviously. I didn't have to get it detailed all the time. I didn't have to give, the dude an extra $20 of the valet to make sure that it didn't get Ferris Buellered or whatever, right? So it's like, and I just started building up more and more gratitude for it. And then some magic started happening and then things started opening up. And it was just really, really interesting to see that. But so during that time period when things were kind of sideways, I asked my 111-year-old self, what do I need to know? And using my non-dominant hands, my left hand, which is a great technique, a really great process to tap into a higher wisdom, the answer was light 1,000 suns who each have the potential to light another 1,000 suns. And I'm like, oh, damn, that feels different and interesting. And so then I thought it was just related to Maverick. So we changed the name from Maverick Business Adventures to Maverick 1000. And it really coincided with this idea of deeper evolutionary growth, right? So we said growth, impact, fun. So deeper evolutionary growth, not just business growth. And that was when we would start doing like the adventures, and that then became like spending the night in a Mayan village. And that's for 2012 for the calendar change and deep ceremonial work with the group. And so it really changed the trajectory of what we were doing. And so we changed the name to Maverick 1000 to represent this idea that one entrepreneur can change an industry, but 1,000 together could help change the world. And then as I continued just like leaning into it, the 1,000 Suns really became much bigger as the North Star of what we're doing. It wasn't just about Maverick, really. It's even bigger than that.
I think your story that you had is going to be resonating with a lot of people if it's not already, because what a lot of people have tried in the past is not necessarily working anymore. And sometimes it's easy to not be kind of the pioneer and do something that's a little uncomfortable. Everyone has a non-dominant hand. It doesn't have to be, a hand on your body. It could be, in the intelligence of doing something that's not necessarily comfortable, to you and going into those other spaces. A friend of mine does darkroom. He'll go into a darkroom retreat for 7 to 10 days to where
Uh,
that's all that, it's
Who's
just
that?
him.
Akshay?
That's Pavel. Pavel,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's your other friend. Yeah, interesting. I didn't know he does that because I did that 2 years ago, and it was one of the most transformative experiences I've had.
Yeah, because he did that. He was similar. He had a big entrepreneurial background. He had like 100 gyms. He was managing, owner of a number of them, and he was completely burnt out.
Yeah.
So he did darkroom to find himself, and then when he came out of that, he sold everything and then went on a spiritual path. So I think there's a really interesting tapping into a deeper, higher consciousness, which is kind of what I want to get into right now. Um, when you ask that question to yourself, will I be happy,
Yeah.
doing this for the next 10 years, or you wanted to ask your 111 yourself, like what you should be doing, like, was there a pivotal moment? Was there something that happened? Was there an experience that pushed you in that direction to ask those hard questions?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's like we want to push away, let's say, depression or frustration or annoyance, and that's actually a gift because it's showing us that we're not on the right path. And so for me, it was that happiness was that originally one where it's like, okay, like I've achieved, like, so one of my original goals, actually, as a 17-year-old, I wrote in my journal, I get rich by enriching others 10x to 100x in return. And that's always been a guiding principle. And so the other thing I wrote in my journal at some point was like, I want to become a millionaire by age 30. And so I hit it at 31. And there wasn't like a choir of angels that rang down or anything like that. It was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and then so I did what most people would do is like, oh, you set a bigger goal then. And so it's all right, I would become a decamillionaire. But that didn't have the same amount of like juice or real passion to it because it didn't come from my, I don't know, like it wasn't real, I guess, or it wasn't like it was just like, oh, we're here, that's what you're supposed to do, and then set the next goal or whatever. But there wasn't a reason why behind it. And so then after that point where that was that in between where it's like, yeah, am I happy? Would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And so happiness is a very elusive kind of thing. You can't pursue happiness for the sake of happiness. But it's a byproduct of when you're on purpose, when you're, doing what feels like play and you're in joy and so forth, and your own unique genius. But that aspect of, depression or anger or frustration, all of these are pointers towards you need to make a change. And it's also a lot. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, quite successful, and so many of them have a very similar story where it's like they got to what they thought was it, and they realized that that wasn't it. And then it becomes the harder work of like uncovering like who are you really. And then it's like, how do we take away, right? Because when I had that when I sold the Aston, for at least guys anyway, their cars are kind of connected to our identities. And so that car, so it's either sell my Virgin Galactic ticket to space or sell my Aston Martin. I'm like, yeah, it's a car. I'm going to sell that. And but it did hit me hard, and it's also, connected to like your net worth, and it's connected to your you're just like your own identity, and so it's like there's so many things there, and as you keep uncovering these layers, you get to like, all right, who are you really? And that's the real work. And because a lot of times we build our first business or businesses from almost like running away from something, right? Like from I don't know. It's really around freedom, but it's like running away from something. Like I don't want to do 9 to 5, or I don't want to, do whatever. I didn't want to run my dad's business or whatever, take it over. I went to go do my own thing. But you're kind of like it wasn't a full alignment. So a lot of times I talk about like connecting your head, which is your business side, and your heart, which is the impact that you want to make in the world, and then your higher purpose. Like why what is the true reason that you incarnated here? So bringing that all together in full alignment, and hopefully also your happy inner child, right? So your head, your heart, your higher purpose, and your happy inner child, and bring that all together. And that's where that full alignment comes from. And so I found a lot of the puzzle pieces as I was sort of like scrambling around, like, why isn't this working? So I got to meet incredible people, like, very well-known icons like Richard Branson, or Tony Hsieh from Zappos, who just, passed a couple years ago, or um, I don't know, Chip Conley, or some other people, Sarah Blakely, also all sorts of people that had some of the puzzle pieces of this. And then some unknown people that were really amazing, like Ari Weinswig from Zingerman's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and the former CEO of Harley Davidson, Rich Tierlink, and a bunch of people that we were able to meet through Maverick. And they kind of formed the framework for this thing I called Evolved Enterprise. And so Evolved Enterprise was based on, at the very center are those three interconnected circles, the growth, impact, fun. But then it's like the you, like that evolution of you, and that's a constant, right? Like, but it does require that deep exploration of who you are. And then the next outer circle is cause, like what do you care about? What's that why? So it's either going to be from like what does your market care about, and you're providing aspect for that, but it's deeper when it's like what's either maybe a wrong that you want to right in the world, or what do you truly deeply care about, and integrating that into your business at the cause. And then the outer ring is culture, um, creation, which is the product or service itself. So culture, and then also community. So not just building customers, but building a true community. But that you part is the first piece of it. It's that deep exploration. And a lot of times we don't want to go there. So it could involve shadow work. It could be, like we were talking about the darkness retreat. Like that's an intense experience to just meet yourself. And if you're not ready for it, a lot of people, I have a meditation practice now. I didn't have one before for about 13 years. And it's I don't know, like I can't imagine not having one. Like it's such a game changer in so many ways. And it's like there's so many pieces of really getting to the crux of who you are truly, which is then gonna kind of let you navigate where you're going next.
When you were talking to me about that, I think like what was coming to my mind is the fake it till you make it concept, which and many people have pushed that for such a long time. I've seen that in network marketing circles and
Yeah.
just online for since pretty much the beginning. Um, People pretending to be something that they're not, and I almost felt like that it's kind of like a gateway drug. It might be the speed or the uppers or the caffeine stimulant that eventually takes you down the path you don't want to go. Maybe maybe you could talk a little bit about how you feel about that concept of fake it till you make it, and also where we're going with that these days, because I think the veil is being lifted in a lot of people's lives to say, am I happy and am I doing the wrong things? And what they think is going to be right. I mean, it's disrupted industries. I mean, it's going to be a graveyard of disrupted industries over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, so the fake it till you make it, I think that there's like anything, there's a part of it that is really true or feels really true, and then there's a part that can get kind of like smushed around in some way. And like for me, where it really works well is like how do you embody, our brains can't tell the difference between a quote unquote real experience or one that we deeply imagine, right? So that that to me is a spot to play fake it till you make it. And I don't even like, obviously it's a good term, right? Like it's good, it rhymes, but it's like, can you envision? And it's more about, so this is, I've been learning even the last like couple of years now. I've been doing some work, with Dr. Joe Dispenza and, really love some of those pieces, because it's really about tapping into the feelings, like, and allowing your heart to really open up. And what are those feelings of gratitude and appreciation and then joy, like in this life or vision that you have for your life, and starting with that, like starting with those feelings. So to me, when I did goal setting originally, it was, a specific goal. I want to become a millionaire by age 30. And then it became or better or faster or sooner. So it opened up the expansion of like what the how the I could play with the universe and allow that to, to help me in some way. Right. So and then it became more about intentions, like what is my intention. So I remember like writing a journal entry. And by the way, like I think journaling is a great process, and we can talk about that in a little while. But I wrote a journal entry about like my 40th birthday. So, when I was like 35 or 38 or something like that. And it was like, I'm driving around this particular car. I have this amount of money in the bank. I'm going to do this thing, and with these unique whatever icons or celebrities and all these different things. And then so I read it when I turned 40, and like pretty much none of them happened. And I showed my wife, and she's like, "Oh, are you sad that, this didn't happen?" And I'm like, I looked at it. I'm like, no, no, not really, because the intention of all of them, has pretty much showed up. Is like one of them was like hang out with like a local sports team that I really liked, and do something with them or something like that. And on my birthday, I got an invite to go. Um, as a future astronaut, you got an invite to all these things. And I was in the Mojave Desert, watching the unveiling of Spaceship Two, of the Virgin Galactic ship on my actual birthday, on my 40th birthday. And then I also got an invite to go with Richard, with Branson to a safari. And that was just with a tiny little group of us because we become friendly. So it's like that was even better than what I had stuck in my journal. And then one of the things I wrote in my journal was like, a $10 million net worth or something like that. And I thought about that. I'm like, oh, no, that didn't happen either. But what is the intention of it? The intention is like do projects with people that you love and work on things that you want to do. And so I'm like, yeah, I have that. And then like I wrote like the car I wanted to drive was a Fisker Karma. That's what I wanted. I don't know if you remember that car, George. It's like a so it's like a is a Fisker Karma. It was a really hot looking car, and but it was a lemon. Like it did not like it didn't perform, and it was like always in the shop. So I didn't have it, but I'm like, oh, I'm glad I don't have it. Like so it's like so it worked out better, and so that to me is also like part of this aspect of this fake it till you make it. Like I'd rather be like, all right, how do we lean into and embody what is that full alignment, and then that feels true, and it doesn't have to feel fake. Like we can tell ourselves I'm a millionaire or I'm whatever. I mean, if you're not, then our minds are gonna be like, no, you're not. Like you have to be honest with yourself in some way. And but you can create the circumstances for it, or you can create the place, and maybe spending time in meditation, or spending time like just getting present to like what is it that feels really exciting for you. And also you tap into that desire. Like the desire is there for a reason. And I always, I get really excited by something, and if I stayed excited for a couple days, and I knew there was something there, because that desire doesn't lie to us, and it comes from a really deep place. And then if you match, and really as you get better at this, you can start merging your desire with the universe's desire in a way that you become the hands for the universe, for the evolutionary impulse that's coming through you. So the more quieter you can get, the more, deeper in stillness, then you're going to get those deeper insights like that, that vision that I had of 1,000 suns lighting 1,000 suns, like that. Every time I talk about it or share it with someone, they can feel the truth of it. And it wasn't just for my small self saying, "Oh, this feels like, something that would make me look good or sound good or whatever." And then, like many years later, reading the Bhagavad Gita, one of the world's oldest spiritual texts, it says, in a actual chapter called Cosmic Vision, it says, "If 1,000 suns were to rise all at the same time, its beauty and splendor would resemble that of the Supreme Spirit." I'm like, "Oh, damn, that's pretty interesting." So you start also like finding synchronicities. That's a big thing for me too. When you're on that right path, synchronicities just show up more and more and more. So you bring awareness to it, but the synchronicities are going to nudge you into the most magical directions if you're aware of it and open to it, and just also keeping track of it.
Speaking of synchronicities, how could someone learn to tune into what the universe has planned for them so that they can find that resonant frequency of what they kind of think that they want and what the
Yeah.
universe says, like, this is what you really need to be, doing?
Yeah, well, it comes from, like I was saying, these times of stillness, because we can be so blah 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 blah, scrolling and completely distracted, and our phones are designed for that, and then just everything else. Don't Let's take out the phones, like everything else coming at us at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So having time that's set aside for, could be prayer, contemplation, meditation, however you want to do it, but that's a really important, at least for me, a fundamental aspect. And I like experiments too, right? So anything I'm telling you, like, play with it, see if it works for you. Like, I'm not telling you what to do. You're your own sovereign being. But I love experiments, and so I will give things time. Like, it's not like a light switch moment, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I meditated one day for 15 minutes. All right, cool. I'm enlightened, and I have all the insights coming in from the cosmic downloads. It's a process, and it builds on itself, and you're also almost strengthening that muscle of commitment for yourself. And a lot of times we're not that good at it originally when we start, because we're better at making maybe promises to other people, but like the promises we make to ourselves, we sometimes back off on. And so it's like, how do we get stronger and stronger on that? So the experiment's one good way of doing it. So, and take one thing, don't take like 5 things that you want to do. I'm going to add cold plunges to my life, and I'm going to add, red light therapy, and I'm going to add journaling, and I'm gonna add, whatever. Like, take one thing. Like for me, I would recommend, let's try journaling or meditation, one of those two foundational ones, and just do it for 15 days, 21 days, 33 days. That's a lot of times my experiments are 33, because it's beyond 1 month, and it's just a fun, number, and it does have some magic to it. And so I'll do something. It could be, or taking away something. Like, I've done it before with like no alcohol, especially when I found myself. And those are other things too. Like you start looking at those habits that have accumulated almost by default. But so, like, what do you consciously, intentionally want to bring to your life and harvest into your life? And so, like, for instance, like alcohol, I realized, like, I was like drinking a beer a night or a bourbon a night or a glass of wine. Like, it wasn't that much, but it was one every single night. And I'm like, well, when's the last time I, actually looked at this? And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to do no alcohol for 33 days. And the first time I did it, I remember being on my front step, having like a slightly warm hard cider at like midnight when I finished. I'm like, all right, well, I guess that didn't quite, I mean, it worked, but not, fully. And then the next time I did it, like, I really eliminated alcohol a lot from my life. And then you notice a huge difference. And then it's like up to you if you want to add it or not add it. And I have this drawing that I did that says, like, could drinking be derailing your destiny of greatness? And I know a lot of amazingly brilliant people that, for whatever reason, will drink a whole lot, and I think it, like, allows them to, I don't know. I mean, who knows for what it is, but there's an opportunity to look at that as one of your keystone habits, and see again, like, you like to see, does it increase something in my life? Does it, whatever it is? And now I'm at the spot of, like, intentionality is the key factor. Like, if I'm gonna have a glass of wine, I'm gonna do it with deep intention, because I want it paired with a particular meal or whatever it is. Also knowing that I'm gonna be maybe a little bit less than optimal the next day, maybe not, but at least I know that going in. It's not a default habit or something that I haven't looked at. So journaling is a big one that I'd recommend. It's a great process, and you can't do journaling wrong, but make it easy to win. So like set aside like 10 minutes a day and just start writing about whatever's happening in in your life. And the deeper you can go, the more meaning you're gonna get out of it. And I also like, if you're gonna do the experiment, like have a particular time of the day. So for me, it's usually before bed, like kind of processing the day, and then you'll start seeing like, so it's been scientifically proven to make you happier because you put a beginning, middle, and end on a page. It's like all the stuff that's like processing, running around in our heads. We actually get to process it on paper. And usually what I start writing about is not going to be the same thing I finish writing about.
Hmm. I think the story about when Neil Donald Walsh put together the Conversation with God book, I think that's a very interesting story for anyone who hasn't looked into that. It's a very interesting trilogy of 3 books that he created,
Yeah.
where
Or
he
even,
actually
yeah.
asked questions, right? And God answered him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was a non-dominant hand thing. I can't
I
remember.
don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. So getting back to this journaling concept, Yannick, um, how do some people have a challenge with coming up with the hard questions? They'll ask very at face level, basic, not very deep questions, but it's when you start asking questions upon questions with the deeper whys, that's
Yeah.
when you start getting into some things that you really need to change, or at least need to do some introspection to. Like, how would someone who's looking to do this start doing it with maybe some of those questions that they should explore, and I mean that's the base of a diary too, right? The whole idea is like, dear diary, no one's supposed to read your diary, so you can tell whatever you want to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, so let's talk about that part first, and then let's talk about questions, because some people, I've taught journaling for a long time, and I love it, and I have lots of other processes around journaling. But that part of like somebody reading it, that is a big fear that a lot of people have, is that someone's going to read this, and I'm going to pour whatever my heart into it, and then someone's going to find it. So if that's the case for you, use code. Use like certain things that only you would know. Use you can have a little lockbox or something like that. Don't I don't really worry about it. I have my journals kind of like stacked up here in my office, and my daughter, who's now 18, but maybe she was like 12 at the time or something, is had she's like, oh, and she's like she's like, she told me later on, she's like, you write way too small and it's way too boring. And so, you know, but again, if it's something you're worried about, do some precautions for it. But it's worth it to go deeper in the journals for sure. And like you said, the questions are a great way of going deeper. So I do actually, I curate questions. I love questions. Like I have a note, a little note file in my phone with great questions, and because your questions really dictate your answers, right? So, where that first internet project started was that one question, like, how do I create a fully automatic web business that makes me money while I sleep, is an incredible value to people. And that's when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with that idea. Like our brains are designed to have the answer. And so if you give it a better question, it's going to come up with a better answer. So I love questions like, for like tapping into your 111-year-old self. We talked about that. Like, so, what would you tell me, or what do I need to know in this case? And then also using your non-dominant hand, and allowing yourself to just allow that to flow through you. The other thing is most people get stuck on one answer. So I might put the question at the top of a page. I don't know. Let's say, what would I do even if I knew it would fail, is a big one. It's based on Brené Brown, which she talked about in Daring Greatly. But what would I do even if I knew it would fail? Some people have heard like, what would I do if I had 6 months left to live, or whatever? What would I do if I knew it wouldn't fail? I like this question of like, what would I do even if I knew it would fail? Because then it's like, all right, what am I willing to exchange my life force for, even if I don't have any consideration for what the outcome's going to be? Because we're so outcome oriented, where it's like, all right, well, I'm only going to do this if I know it's going to work, or the success. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, again, like we talked about, reference before, there's a section in there, and it talks about like we're only entitled to the fruit of our labor, not the labor, right? So that means if our putting our full heart and soul into something, that's the actual gift itself. And I don't know about you, I think you're probably the same. It's like when we actually do that, it feels great. And then not only that, like a lot of times the rewards come in because of that. And so it's like we're trying to so many times like get the outcome that we want, but but it's like when we're trying to like, what's the marketplace gap or what's the opportunity gap here? Or what's the, whatever. And it's like, allow yourself to be your own highest guide and just, do that and see what happens when you just put your full heart and soul into something like, we have a project, I'm sure we'll talk about the Cosmic Journal that came out of that. And it's like one of my favorite projects. But so that idea of questions, here, I'll pull up the question notepad and we'll see what
What's the opposite of everyone else? What everyone else would do? What's the opposite way of thinking, opposite way of acting? How can I do something completely different than everyone else is doing it?
there you go. Well, that's why you and I are working together about Underground, because that was what led me to creating the Underground in the first place. Was I haven't heard you talk about that, but that totally makes sense because you are a contrarian, and again, like Earl Nightingale taught me that really early, which was do the opposite of what 95% of the other people are doing, and
Yeah.
and most likely you're going to find success that way, and so that's and I think there's like everything, right? It's two-sided, like, double-edged sword kind of thing, right? So you can go too far into that, like a strength can become a you know, a weakness when it's done too far. But for the most part, going the opposite is
Mhm.
usually a really good rubric for what you want to do.
Or another one. This created my summit business, which is what is everyone else scared shitless to do for other people that I can do? What will they not do? And I'll just do that. And that usually just is immediate success because no, the gap is like it's there. Like
Yeah.
it's the one thing everyone wants, but no one's willing to do it for them. It's like just step into that gap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really, really good. So then, what I do is, so you could take like a question like that and then put it at the top of your journal page, and then you're going to answer. Just use your regular hand, dominant hand, answer, and then answer again, and you get like 4 or 5 answers, and then the first couple are like kind of pedestrian, kind of like whatever, and then you'll start going deeper and deeper, and the answers get better. And then once you've exhausted that, then you can move to your non-dominant hand and see what happens. And I guarantee you'll get like 1 or 2 or 3 more answers as well. And you'll be like, oh, how do I make an E again? Or, but it doesn't really matter. But like, just do it and see what happens, and don't think too much. So I'll give you a couple other questions that I really love. It's actually kind of funny. If you, I don't know if you can see that. It says, how can I go the opposite? Which
Oh,
says
okay.
underground right underneath it.
Nice.
Yeah, so we are connected there. Um, so I like, what would my 111-year-old self tell me? What would my 11-year-old self tell me? What would I do even if it would fail, like we talked about? This is one of my favorites when enlisting partners. Who else has even more to gain than I do by this succeeding? So I love thinking in terms of partnerships and collaborations and like, okay, well, who else can I make look like a hero in a bigger way? So who else has even more to gain but than I do by this succeeding? And that's where it gets really exciting. And one of my favorite questions when I meet somebody is what's most exciting right now? So this is not really a journal question. It could be because it could be as you're like having all these projects or things happening. It's like, all right, what feels most exciting? But when I meet somebody, like usually one of my go-to questions is like, wait, what's most exciting for you right now, or what feels most alive? And then they have the choice of going into a business or personal or whatever it is, and then see where I can help them or connect them. Here's one of my favorites too. Um, if I truly trusted the universe truly has even more in store for me than I can imagine, how do I act accordingly? And so this is like a little plaque that I have on my desk that came from a sunrise journaling session. And I don't know if it shows up reverse or not, but it says, trust the universe has even more in store for you than you can imagine. Trust the divine timing. Trust your crazy ideas. Trust your wings will grow when you leap. Trust your nature. Trust you've been encoded with a cosmic alarm clock. Trust the signs, symbols, and synchronicities sent to you. Trust the co conspirators catalyzing your conscious evolution. Trust the perfect unfolding of your understanding. Trust your divine connections. And so I have that as like a reminder to myself to that trust the universe has even more in store for you than I can imagine, and it's shown up many, many, many times to prove that that's true.
Is that going to be tattoo number 3?
No. At least I don't think so, but who knows? Maybe for somebody I'll start selling tattoo tokens. But it's been really fun selling my art and putting my art out there, and that was actually one of the first art pieces. So my Sophia, who's my cousin and our chief experience architect for Maverick, it was the first time ever I read anything out of my journal on Necker Island and to the group, and she noticed how special it was and what the reaction was for people. And it came from me feeling a bit anxious actually in the morning because we had split the island with a friend of mine, Joe Polish, and we did half and half people. And then this was the first year that we were doing it on our own. So I woke up early, couldn't sleep, went out, meditated, journaled, and that was what came through me. And so I read that at the end of the week, and the week went incredibly well. And then she turned it into a plaque that got sent to people afterwards, and it was really cool. Like one of my friends who's got a very very big house in the Hollywood Hills. I went to go visit him, and on the mantle of his fireplace was that plaque, and I don't think he like stuck it there because I was coming over. And then another friend of mine has like two of them in his office in his house, just because that sentiment is so powerful. And so when something comes through you deeply like that, it resonates with people on a whole different level.
Hmm. I'd love to talk about your cosmic journal because I think it's very interesting. You brought it up a couple times, and I
Yeah.
think people need to see what you've done because I think it mixes the art, it mixes the journaling, it mixes questions like having because the way you use it is you ask a question to the universe, right? And
Yeah.
then you open the journal, and whatever page you land on is supposed to give you some sort of a message. Maybe you could explain the concept. Like,
Yeah.
how'd you come up with this, and just tell us about this.
Sure. Well, so, I love experiments, right? So, I saw this experiment or challenge going around called the 100-Day Art Challenge. And I'm like, okay. And the idea is you're supposed to create a piece of art every single day, whatever you want. But every single day for 100 days. And I'm like, and so of course in my journal, I'm like writing about that. I'm like, do I want to do this thing? That's a lot. I travel around a lot. Am I willing to commit to it? But I'm like, there'd be some byproduct that's gonna be really interesting that comes out of it. So I committed to it. And instead of 100, I did 108 because 108 is more connected to wisdom traditions. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I have a little moleskin journal that I got, and I just made 108 check boxes, or little boxes, and that was it. And then I just started the process, and I just committed every single night, day, whatever. I'd have one page that I would draw, and so whatever would come through me. Sometimes it was like older journals that I wanted to recapture. There's something cool in there, but most of the time it was just meditating and seeing what would come through me. And it was really fascinating to see the process of like every single day just doing a page. So it's part illustration, part like journaling. And then after like day 50 or 60, I started using it like an oracle. I just open it up and be like, all right, what do I need to know? And I'd be like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. So then I finished it. I'd carry around this little black moleskin and show it to my friends and be like, here, check this out. You're take a moment, just take a breath and open up a page and be like, oh, wow. And they would get something, and it was just like really connecting to them. And one of my friends he's like, all right, I'm gonna pay to publish this thing. I'm like, okay, cool. And I never like intended it to be published. When I was writing it, it was just for me. And so because it was going to get published, then I had to figure out how it would actually come together. And so I took all the pages and scanned them and made them like little 2 inch by 2 inch little squares, stuck them on my kitchen island, and figured out, because there is a real arc to it, or could have been, like there was no rhyme or reason originally, but then I created the arc to it, and I finished it at 1:11 a.m. I'm like, okay. And then because to make it usable for other people, I created left-hand prompts, like pages for them that they could use. And I finished that at 1:11 a.m. And then the manuscript from FedEx got delivered to me at 1:11 p.m. I'm like, all right, this is amazing. So those synchronicities are definitely like are pointing towards things, and it also connects to that 111-year-old self, and that idea of the thousand suns. And so yeah, it's been really, really amazing. So then I got a meeting with Reed Tracy, who was the president of Hay House, which is one of the biggest, transformational book publishers out there. Wayne Dyer was one of his best friends, and so I show Reed the thing, and he's like, "All right, I've never seen anything like this." And so they fast tracked a contract for me, and then also set up Oracle cards came with it. So this is the journal. I actually have a very special cover on it that someone sent me from. Ever heard of the Camino? You ever heard of that, George? It's like a
Mm.
it's like a pilgrimage route in I think Spain and
All right.
the Camino.
Camino del Santiago or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah. So there's a woman there that lives on there, and this is like her heirloom linen that her mom and embroidered stuff like. This is really cool. So this is not what the cover looks like, but let me see if I can get the cover out of here. This is what the cover looks like, but I do like I even like my cover even better. The so we can play a game. We can flip to a page. You can either give me a number or we can just flip to a page.
Hmm.
A
How
number
many pages are like from 1
yeah,
to
between 1 to 189.
33?
33. Let's do it. I don't know what's on 33. All right. Here you go. I'm just gonna put it to the screen so you can see it, and then we'll include a page. We'll include the actual page here. But it says so. This is written in Ulasaba actually, which is in South Africa, which is one of Branson's lodges, and it says, "Welcome home. If you listen closely, everything is sending you a message. This morning, one bird welcomed me home to wake me from meditation. That's the thought. The word appeared as a feeling. Home. The concept of feeling at home, being at home in our bodies, in our present situation, in our integrity, our alignment and presence. Home is safety and comfort. Safe that the universe looks after you, comfort in who you are, the perfect expression of infinite source. When we arrive each time on Necker Island, staff say, welcome home. That's how burners greet each other too at Burning Man. Home is also where your family is, your star family. We've reassembled and gathered together. Filling your own light circle is part of coming home. The people who you immediately recognize, they share your heart. It's not something you can think into, only feel into through the heart. Our heart is our beacon home to the stars.
That's beautiful, man. So relevant too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, I really wouldn't have written, or I wouldn't say, I take that back. I would have written it. I wouldn't have published it if I knew it was going to be published. So, what hit you from that?
Sometimes it's the simplest things, the thing that like finding that thing that makes you feel comfortable, that it's not like work, that you can wake up every day and not have that stress, that anxiety, that cortisol that's just flowing through your body. Because I think there's so much damage that does to people. And yeah, it's just, I think it all starts with the mind. Just that vision of waking up and the bird welcoming you home, and then everything around you really, pushing towards like you're in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
where you're supposed to be at. I think that really resonates with me.
Yeah, as I haven't read this in a while, so as I was reading it, that idea of like being at home in our bodies, in our present situation, in our integrity, our alignment and presence, and that was a big one for me as I was reading that, and then also that idea of like you can't think into what feels like home or family, like it's only through the heart, and our heart is our beacon home to the stars.
Hmm. Do you think that there's something, whether it's a cosmic force or a group of people like the nefarious Illuminati or something like that, that tries to keep us from really connecting to our cosmic purpose? I mean, why do we keep getting off track? Why do people, keep falling into entropy and not being able to do the things that I think their soul knows that they need to do?
Yeah, well, let's break that down in a couple different ways, right? So, um, I think that everything is perfect in the way it's unfolding. Like, there's certain things that I think have woken people up more that were maybe designed to maybe control people more. And it just like opened up, just these awakenings, right? Like the pause that we had during COVID was a big one, like that, year and a half, 2 year pause, right? Like it really had people thinking like, all right, well, am I doing what I'm really meant to be doing? And regardless of what, what you think about the origins and all of that, like to me it's almost irrelevant, because what it did was, the outcome. Like I look at these as catalysts, and they're catalysts for awakening, for consciousness. And there's different waves that happen. And for me, my bigger awakening was when I was 39. And for others, it's going to be at different ages or different times or whatever it is. And then we also have like almost like codes for each other and like reflections for each other. And so like, that idea of entropy that you were talking about, like, so if I would have been, let's say, on only one trajectory of, whatever, as a 12 or 13-year-old, and just kept going on that one direction of just going deeper and deeper into spirituality or consciousness or quote unquote weirdness or whatever, yeah, I would have been in a different spot, and I would have not taken any side detours. But to me, all those side detours are exactly what was meant to happen, so then I can come back with a maybe a fuller picture, or more, I don't know, like I think that we're unfolding in the perfect way, and so it feels, um, and when things are really hard sometimes in the world, it feels difficult to be like, oh yeah, that's perfect, and um, but in this higher way of looking at things, I do believe that there's a much more intense evolutionary impulse that's happening, and so I'm a big fan of like, so I've studied a lot. The last page of the Cosmic Journal talks about the Great Year, which you I'm pretty sure you know about this. I think we've talked about this, right? Like, so this idea of these great cycles, and that's where we were in, in Mine Riviera in 2012 when things really shifted for what we're doing with Maverick. Was I came out of a Temescal, which is a Mayan sweat lodge essentially, at exactly midnight on the solstice, and so the synchronicity of that was like amazing because the symbolism is you're going into the womb of the earth to be reborn. And so, different cultures have talked about these big eras of time. So there's these cycles within cycles, right? And so we're experiencing that right now. And it's really fascinating. I don't know when this will air, but we're just about at that 13-year cycle from 2012. When we're right now, as we're talking, it's approximately a month from now. And so my mind teacher that I work with, he's like, okay, the 13 years, a lot of people are like, oh, well, number one, the media was like, okay, it's the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. And so that's that sensationalism and that fear-based kind of thing that they want to push, or certain people want to push. And, but it wasn't that. It was it was a big, new cycle. And so some people are like, oh, again, light switch moment. It's not going to be a light switch moment, but in time, in history, 13 years is nothing. And then but look at how much change has happened, how much transformative change has happened in 13 years. And so my mind teacher is like, these 13 years are about planting seeds for the new world that we all believe is possible. The next 13 years is seeing the stalks of that come up, and the shoots of that come up. And so that's really interesting for me. So I like studying and seeing, the bigger picture. And so when you put things into the bigger picture, like, to me, the big picture is, it's a very simple, like, sort of like 3 chapter story. It's unity, separation from unity, and then return to unity, but you're returning with new information. And
Hmm.
so if I look at that from a very simple 3 chapter arc, I'm like, okay, I see where we are. I see what's happening. And then I can feel like, okay, it's happening in the right way. Now, that doesn't mean I should just sit back and be like, cool, it's all happening. And, but, we also have our own free will. And part of our free will is to have that alignment, what we're reading about in that page, right? Like that alignment with our bodies and our integrity and all of that. So the more we're in that alignment, again, head, heart, higher purpose, happy inner child, you're going to be, quote unquote, doing things that are in alignment with the universe. And you can substitute whatever word you want for universe there.
What do you think some of those stocks are going to be? If we've gone through a 13-year cycle where we've been planting seeds, are you saying that we've been planting seeds the last 13 years and
Yeah,
now
yeah,
the next 13 years, like, what are
yeah.
some of the stocks you think that people are going to start to see over the next 13?
Well, I mean, to me, since my world is all about business entrepreneurship, right? To me, every single sector, industry, category is pretty much ready for like what is going to work to actually be a way of thriving for every single, not just person, but every being. And so, we can look at healthcare, medicine, financial, governance, education, food, soil. I mean, you could literally name every single thing, and to me, there's shoots and stocks that are ready to pop up from that.
You think AI is the fertilizer for that, or do you think something else is, or just the great awakening in general?
I think it's the Great Awakening. I think it's a higher level of consciousness that's coming in, and and we are designed to almost like, saying this, that whole vision that I've had of 1,000 suns lighting 1,000 suns. Again, originally I thought it was just for Maverick, and I've realized that it's not for that. It's for this way of bringing light to every sector, industry, category, organization in the world. And it's not me doing it. It's not, Yanik Sons. It's us as we get fully awakened or illuminated as a sun. Like a sun is a nourisher of life everywhere, right? Like it can't help but provide life. It can't help but provide irradiate its brilliance everywhere. And that's the same thing for us as we get fully illuminated. And the way I look at it is a fractal, which is one of my tattoos that I just got. Right. So the fractal is seeds, suns, and blooms. And so these are the seeds. And the seeds are as you're illuminated as a sun, like you can't help but plant seeds. And planting seeds is like this podcast that's happening. That's a seed that's planted about, higher consciousness in some way. And someone's gonna pick that up and it's gonna someone, like, it doesn't matter. Like nature's abundant, right? Like it has, so how many seeds does a tree put out there? And it just is totally abundant. And so some of the seeds are gonna ripen into sons. And so, but the seeds are look like education, training, information, content, a good word to somebody, your Uber driver, whatever it is, engaging with them in some way. That could be a seed. But the art, documentaries, like for me, it's the art. And then the seeds get nourished by the suns, and the suns are the community that you want to curate, or the transformative work that you're doing with other leaders or visionaries, or ceremonial work, whatever that is. So that's the suns over here, and then the suns nourish the seeds, and out come blooms, and the blooms are joint projects and opportunities and ways of playing together, and so that's what I'm really excited for, right? Is that collaboration, and that's part of this new way of playing. And so you had asked George about, is AI the fertilizer for it? Yeah, I think it is, for sure. I mean, it's a massive, massive one. So I'm a big fan of I've seen these four energies that are, part of that universal one energy that I've been connected to, right? So it's the four energies are cosmic consciousness, and then original earth wisdom. So that's at one pole connecting together. And then you have divine DNA. We had talked about this, I think, the other day when I was going for a walk. Divine DNA is like that health, wellness, optimization, like going back to our own divine DNA. And then evolved enterprise or evolved expression. So typically through business. And so that's on the other pole in some way, and then bring that all together. And so AI to me is a catalyst for some of that. Yeah. I mean, probably not original earth wisdom, maybe cosmic consciousness. I mean, because to me, everything is consciousness. Everything is, so, it's funny. Like someone just did a presentation for a group of us on Mosquito Island, which is Branson's other island. And one part of the conversation was about, bringing consciousness to AI. Every time you interact with AI, like just setting, like getting yourself ready, like putting yourself in a state of like heart coherence, and just like not just automatically doing whatever, but like getting yourself actually in a state of heart coherence, and being like really, like knowing that it's gonna have a great outcome, even better than you can imagine. And so it's like that non-locality of connecting. And so I just continue finding more and more ways that things are more interesting than we imagine.
Hmm. Being in the information marketing space for such a long time, where do you think where do you think we're going with information itself? Meaning, like, usually there was a gate, right? You'd have to pay to get certain information. It was like the secret codes, the secret whatevers. But it's so much at people's fingertips right now. Do you feel like we're going to start learning a different way? Are there different evolutions we're going to be taking in how we consume information, how we actually learn?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not fully my world anymore, but I do have a finger or two, maybe three in it still. And it's like, I think the more the more we can move away from it being just one dimensional, I think is going to be better, right? So if it's simply information, then whatever my chat GPT can spit it out, or whatever else can get it. And this is a very similar thing that when I was teaching and sharing with other people, they're like, well, I could, whatever, you can get guitar lessons online from somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, you can. And then, but it's like the more you make it unique to yourself via a personality, or whatever the layer is around it. However, like right now, what I see, and it's going to be like, it really taps into what your question was, which is like, what are people not willing to do? Or how did you phrase it? Like, what are people not
What's
willing?
the thing that someone's not willing to do at all costs? They're scared to death to do.
Yeah. So, if you look at information, it's typically to get you from point A to B in some way, right? Or a transformation, or an outcome. And so if we don't look at it just as information, then that's more interesting. Like, is there a community that you can go on this journey with together? Is there a unique experience that you could get to go on as part of this transformation? Is there, we've been doing more, we've been doing forever, live experiences, and it's a pain in the ass. It's definitely a pain in the ass, but the connection that comes with it is even greater. And so I did a little drawing, recently about like going all in on being human, and in the age of AI, and it's like a person like throwing in their poker chips like this, and there's four stacks of poker chips, and one was community, creativity, connection, and ceremony. And so that was the ones that I'm going in on.
Hmm. What does connection and ceremony mean to you when it comes, like, as far as going all in?
Yeah, connection is that deep personal human to human connection. That the really meaningful interactivity that happens typically inside a community or within a playground or sandbox, as we call it, or like some unique experience sometimes. But just that deeper connection, like being really, really present, being having having just going deeper. And then ceremony is this is so I've been really blessed to have some amazing teachers, and many of them are indigenous wisdom keepers, lineage holders, and one of them, her name is Anita Sanchez. She would talk about like her elders would tell her when things get wild, keep dancing your dances, keep sitting in your ceremonies, keep I forgot what the other one was, but that same thing of like just being in reverence, being in knowing. Like ceremony to me is it doesn't have to be plant medicine. I mean, that's become a bigger thing now. But ceremony, like when we did the Temazcal with the Mayans for 2012, like that is 1000% ceremony, and it's deep, deep medicine. As you're coming out of the womb of the earth to be reborn, and so many things can be ceremonial depending on the intention that you put into it. And so I find that it's just a deeper connection to, if we're going to go connect to cosmic consciousness and original earth wisdom, that's the way of doing it.
Yeah, I know that there's like there's been seed banks, in different parts of the world where just in case we had a catastrophic event or a
Yeah.
cataclysmic event, we can rebuild the earth, right, with all the seeds, kind of like Noah's Ark, right? Same
Hmm.
kind of story, just a
Hmm.
different timetable. There's a school of thought that says that we've been through this evolution multiple times as humans. Like humans have evolved to higher states, and then you know came back, and then like it's not just the reincarnation loop. It's like we got to a technological place where we start to lose our humanity, and then we have to forget it all intentionally and then go back. What do you think about some of that? Do you think we're in another one of those cycles?
I think we're in ascending cycle. So, that great year that I was mentioning before is the last page on the Cosmic Journal, right? It's for easy back of the napkin math, it's, let's say, 26,000 years, right? And it's approximately 13,000 years of light and 13,000 years of dark. And again, I'm being very, very simplistic on it. And it's just like, again, cycles within cycles, right? So the day, we have 12 hours of daytime, we have 12 hours of nighttime, we have our seasons, and then we have these other things. And so science will tell you that about the precession of the earth, that the wobble, but these other civilizations really talked about where we were in the galaxy, and that affected our consciousness because there's different energy coming in. And so that idea of this 26,000 year cycle of darkness, and then most people, we'll say a lot of people, believe history is linear. Just keep getting better and better and better. It's linear, right? But many ancient cultures looked at history as cyclical, as a circle, right? We had the golden age, and then we had the silver age, and then bronze and iron, right? The declining, and then what they don't talk about, those it comes back up again: iron, bronze, silver, gold again. So these other eras and epochs of time, they were, when we had higher consciousness, essentially. I mean, if you just look at some of the landmarks on our Earth, I mean, it's fascinating. You can read some of like what's his name, Graham
Jim
Hitchcock.
Hancock.
Graham Hancock,
Hancock.
thank you. Yeah, his stuff, right? Like it's fascinating, and and you don't have to take all of that in, and I think it's worth it. Like same thing, like what I said, like take whatever I say and see what fits. But same thing with like as you're reading books or checking out things, like all right, some of it you can't know for sure if it's true or not. You just have to go with that internal feeling and discernment. But I don't know, when you just look at things, you're like, all right, even like the pyramids, like how, like it's and when you start looking at like, where they're positioned in the earth mass and the angle and what that meant, and it's just like there's definitely a higher consciousness that built that. I mean, to me, there's no question about it. So then it's like, okay, so what happened if in our story is just this linear that we kept getting better and better and better technology? So I don't think that's the story. So then we're in this cyclical ascending consciousness. And then, your question, George, was, have we done this before? Um, Probably. Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's certain people that believe that they're here in particular for this moment in time, when it is this shift that's happening. Like to me, it feels like a really cool, interesting moment, and I feel like I've done this before. Like it feels really easy. It's like, all right, let's gather up all the people that are part of this shift, and how do we play together?
Do you think that universal basic income is inevitable or needed? What do you think about that as it plays into people being able to pursue their own desires, or is it more of a mechanism for control, like a deeper mechanism for control?
Oh, man, that's a hard question. I don't fully know. I've thought about it from both sides, um, because it could release people from that having to stress over what they're getting, paid, and then they can maybe pursue things that hopefully have a higher expression for them. Because that to me is like to me one of the greatest goals that we could have is high fullest expression, and what is that unique gift that we want to provide out into the world. So anything that makes that easier. Um, so I don't know. I'm still I'm uncertain on which direction for that.
Yeah, I think
But
it's interesting. I think a lot of people also, myself included, when you get to the point where you're ready to start take that next chapter, take that next path, the one that might be uncomfortable, to start pursuing the stuff that you really know that you deeply need on
yeah,
your soul level. It's not just scary, but then you got to start thinking, well, how do I take care of my family? Like, do I still pay the bills or property taxes that are still due? And there's all these systems that keep you kind of feeling somewhat stuck. So making that pivot, making that move to have enough intestinal fortitude to do what you know is right. I think that's where a lot of people are on the precipice looking over, say, should I jump? Will my wings grow as I fall?
yeah,
Right.
and they will. And it might not be in the same way that you anticipate, but they will. And so for me, I get a lot of confidence when I look backwards. Right, that's one of the processes of journaling. Number one, you can go back to journals, but I'll give you this one journaling exercise, which is every time, like look back in your life when you've had a hard decision and what has been the outcome, like what has shown up in different ways. Like you said, the wings will grow when you leap. Like what wings have shown up, what allies, which what has shown up to help you when you've made that decision. One of the worst spots to be in, and I've been in there before, and it sucks, is that limbo of like deciding, should I do this, not do this. Like I really do believe that following your heart is frequently scary but never wrong. And then so, but when you connect again, our head, our heart, higher purpose, and happy inner child, you're going to make decisions from that place, and it's connected to a higher why, which also helps give you the fortitude for what you're going to do. And just realize that it like there are forces, like if you take one or two steps forward towards your true direction, um, the universe, we keep using the word the universe will take 10 steps towards you. But
How do you know that it's your heart talking and it's not your head getting in the way? Ventriloquism, right?
yeah, because usually it's something that you know is true, but you don't want to hear.
Mm.
It's something that from a deep level, and it's something that feels scary. Usually, like your head is usually there to like your head wants to like plan out every scenario and be like, all right, well, here's what's going to happen. And so this, you're not going to make this thing happen, or this is why this is going to happen. And then you're going to see this thing happen, or like your head is like really good for that part, but it's, your heart is more connected to your essence. And again, like getting to those soft, silent, deeper spots, you're going to be able to hear those still voices longer. Like I call it the cosmic alarm clock. So that cosmic alarm clock is soft. It's ringing in your ears. You can either hit snooze and go back to bed, or answer it. And for many of us, we know what it is, but we're scared for whatever reason, like you mentioned, and that's where the head comes in. It's like, well, how are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to, what are you doing? You're an idiot. You have a family. Like you're going to go be in whatever, a artist or I don't know, you're going to go pursue being a Olympic volleyball player. I don't know, whatever your thing is, like your head is there to kind of like talk you out of it and then keep you smaller. And then literally your soul will die a little bit every single day. But that fire never goes out. It's like a pilot light. It can never go out. Like that little sun spark. It's never going to go out. And sometimes, we do take hiatuses and breaks and things like that, but it's totally okay because someone is there or something is there to help respark that for us.
Hmm. If you only had 12 more months to complete your mission, on this earth, maybe you were given a notice, in a journal, like, hey, you got 12 months left. Like, clock starts today, right?
Yeah.
What would you do differently over the next 12 months, or like, what would you like to leave as a legacy for the next generation to pick up the torch?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't think I'd really change too much because when you can look at every day, what you're doing is, that legacy question. I've thought about it before from a deep legacy aspect, but it's really what do we do day to day that defines our legacy. And so I look at every single day, I'm planting one seed, one sun spark in some way. If I can light another sun in some way, that's a good day. And then the byproducts of that happen and show up. I look at the cosmic journal and the other pieces as for sure, hopefully guideposts that I've left for my kids and others in some way. But it's not just for me. It's also becomes a guide for them. Like they can play with it and use it in their own way. It's not like dictating a certain dogma or anything like that. And yeah, there's not really that much dramatically else. I mean, I think I'd be looking at my calendar for sure and be like, is this really important and is this fulfilling what I'm meant to be doing?
How do people connect with you after this? Maybe to check out some of the stuff you're doing, maybe learn about Mavericks,
Yeah.
get a copy of the journal.
Yeah, I mean, the journal's available at Amazon or Hay House. It's just Cosmic Journal or Cosmic Journey Oracle cards. Those are really great. Go to 1000sunsparks.com. So the number 1000. So I've been doing a daily illustration page for, I don't know, 200 some days now. It's been really fun every single day. And then if you want to check out Maverick, if you're a 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneur who cares about nudging consciousness and wants to be part of this new world, go to maverick1000.com.
Awesome. This has been a lot of fun, Yanik. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know that we've just lit at least a few new suns with this
Yeah, hopefully.
conversation.
Thanks, George. Appreciate it.
All right. See you on the next session.
All right.
If you've been waiting for a sign to finally reset to get your foundation solid, this is it. Join our 3-day online Unbreakable Bootcamp to help you build strength across your mind, your body, your emotions, and your finances. You can go to unbreakable.bootcamp.com right now and register while it's still free, or click the link in the description. Again, that's unbreakable.bootcamp.com.